Hello and welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. Tonight's topic is the 10 signs of the identity of the Antichrist. So, as you, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm not an apologist. I'm a literature professor and writing professor. I've written 20 novels. I'm currently working on a series of Catholic novels under the name, under Roger Weston. And so for one of these points of the 10 keys to the Antichrist's identity, I'm going to be quoting Jimmy Akin at length. Jimmy Akin is a Catholic apologist, highly knowledgeable about this topic. And so for one of these points, I'll be quoting him at length for his excellent explanation. All right, the number 10 key to the identity of the Antichrist. He will claim to be God. According to 2 Thessalonians 2:4, he will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. 2 Thessalonians 2:4. He will claim to be God. Number 9, he will break the treaty and invade Israel. According to Daniel 9:26, here's a quote: "The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed." Number 8. So what are the two things we know about the identity of the Antichrist? He will claim to be God. And number 9, he will break the treaty and invade Israel. Number 8, he will make a peace treaty with Israel. Daniel 9:27 tells us he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. So he will make a peace treaty with Israel. Number 7, key to the identity of the Antichrist. He will control the global economy. We learn in Revelation 13:16-17. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on the right hand or on his forehead, so that one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Number 6, he will rule by deception. The Antichrist will rule by deception. This is Daniel 8:24 and 25. He will become very strong and will succeed in whatever he does. He will cause deceit to prosper. And he will consider himself superior. Sounds familiar. So number 6, he will rule by deception. Number 5, he will rule by consent. Revelation 17:12 tells us that the 10 horns you saw are the 10 kings. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. Revelation 17:12. He will rule by international consent. They will rule. They have one purpose, and they will give their power and authority to the beast, the 10 kings. Okay, number 4, sign of the identity of the Antichrist. He is intelligent and persuasive. Daniel 7:20 tells us the other horn looked more imposing than the others and had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully. So he's intelligent and persuasive. Number 3, key to the identity of the Antichrist. This is the one where I'm going to be quoting Jimmy Akin at length. Number 3, his headquarters will be in Rome. This is a common assumption we hear from Protestants. And Revelation 17:8 tells us, "The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and will come up out of the abyss. The 7 heads are the 7 hills on which the woman sits." So, all right, allow me to quote and paraphrase at certain points the apologist Jimmy Akin of Catholic Answers, as far as I know, one of the great apologists, and a man with incredible, absolutely like encyclopedic knowledge of the Bible and the Catholic faith. All right, Babylon, according to Jimmy Akin, Babylon is likely being used as a symbol in Revelation. Babylon was once one of the. By the way, I'm going to include a link down at the bottom if anybody's interested. A link to the video where I learned this from Jimmy Akin, which is essentially what I'm giving you is almost word for word from what Jimmy Akin said in his talk about this topic. So, Babylon. I'm reading off a transcript. Babylon was one of the great enemies of the Jewish people in the Old Testament. When we read about the great city in Revelation, we read that it is mystically called, among other things, Sodom in Egypt, which suggests that these names for Old Testament enemies of God's people are being used symbolically. If that's true, Sodom in Egypt, if it's true of Sodom and Egypt, then it's likely true of Babylon as well. Also, because Babylon was the main enemy of Judea during the Old Testament period, they conquered Judea and subjugated it. Then there was a repeat of this subjugation later on when, even after Judea had obtained freedom, it was conquered again, this time by Rome. Thus, the term Babylon was used for Rome, given that they did similar things to Israel as Babylon did. In various writings, Babylon of the time, Babylon is used as a symbol of Rome. So in Revelation, we see the reference in Revelation that the whore of Babylon sits on the beast with 7 heads, and the 7 heads are 7 kings and 7 hills. It's natural to assume then that Babylon refers to the ancient city of Rome, because of course there are 7 hills in Rome. Does that mean that it's the Catholic Church? Absolutely not. The Catholic Church is not on the 7 hills. Vatican Hill, there is a hill. The Vatican is associated with a hill, Vatican Hill. However, that hill is not one of the 7 hills of Rome. And also Vatican Hill is on the opposite side of the Tiber River. Also, the 7 heads of the beast are also described as 7 kings, as well as the 7 hills. And we're told that 5 are fallen, 1 is, and another will come and reign a short time. These kings demanded worship. These Roman emperors demanded worship, and they persecuted Christians. This sounds so that these reference the 5 are fallen, 1 is, another will come and reign a short time. This sounds like a reference to the 1st century Roman emperors, and if so, the 5 who have fallen would have been Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. The one reigning at the time would have been Galba, and the one yet to come is Otho, who would reign a short time. And of course, that is exactly what happened. Otho reigned for a few months. So there's a good case to be made, according to Jimmy Akin and the scholars, that the book of Revelation was written during the reign of Galba. And it's referring to the line of Roman emperors and was the cult of emperor worship that is being discussed and referred to as the Whore of Babylon. So rather than Christian Rome, it would have been pagan imperial Rome that was referred to before the conversion of Rome. Now, another point in favor of this argument is that John says both in the beginning and at the end of Revelation that the vision discloses what is to happen soon. That suggests first century. If the whore is to be associated with Rome, then it would be first century pre-Christian Rome. Now, and there are other possibilities. Another possibility, as we also read in Revelation, the great city is also identified with the city where the Lord was crucified. That would be referring to Jerusalem. Some have said that maybe the whore isn't Rome. Maybe the beast that the whore is riding represents Rome, but the whore represents Jerusalem, according to some scholars. And so this seating of the whore of the beast may not represent a geographical location, but rather an alliance between anti-Christian Jerusalem and anti-Christian Rome, both of whom persecuted early Christians. Now that might explain why the beast is said to hate and attack the whore, just as the Romans attacked and decimated Jerusalem in the first century, shortly after the reign of Galba. Now there are other possibilities as well. Therefore, it's not even close to being established with any certainty that the Whore of Babylon is the Catholic Church. In fact, biblical evidence, according to Jimmy Akin, is strongly against that assumption. So there you go. That is a little commentary on the third sign of the Antichrist identity, that the headquarters will be. We'll just call it Revelation 17, 8 and 9. That the Antichrist is associated with the seven heads. The seven heads are the seven hills. The beast which you once saw was, now is not, will come up out of the abyss. So anyway, that's the third sign. Second sign, he will rule the whole world. And he is given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Okay, second sign of the Antichrist. He will rule the whole world. And that comes out of Revelation 13:7. He was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. And the final sign of the identity of the Antichrist. He will rise to power in the last days. Later, keep in mind there have been many Antichrists going all the way back to Roman times, and the Antichrist spirit has been alive and well in many points in time. However, in Daniel 8:19 reads, later in the time of wrath, for example, in Rome, for example, Nero could be interpreted as a sign of the Antichrist, and others, those who persecuted the church, other Roman emperors. But Daniel 8:19. Later in the time of wrath, the time of the end, is a insert. A stern-faced king, a master of intrigue, will arise. Later in the time of wrath, a stern-faced king, a master of intrigue, will arise. So that tells you a little bit about the character of the stern-faced king, detailed in Daniel 8:19. So there you go. Those are the 10 signs of the identity of the Antichrist. Thank you for watching. God bless you. And good night from the Midnight Bible Study.